Hi guys, my name is Brooke Fremouw. I'm a certified trauma support specialist, and more importantly, I'm a mom to 11 incredible adopted kids. I know that going back to school can lead to so much pressure. It's pressure on the kids, it's pressure on the parents, and it can be really a stressful time for you to get back into the routine of what the daily grind is going to look like for everybody in your household, but especially in adoptive homes and homes that have gone through some form of trauma. Because I'm a certified trauma support specialist, I've been working with Open Hearts Ministry. Open Hearts, this message is for you. I thank you so much for the good work that your families are doing, and I want to talk to you, those families, today. I want to get you guys some tools, some skill sets, and just some fundamental reframes in the way in which you think as you're going into this new year, because the truth is you are winning on some sides. And then on other sides, you're going, this is not going how I anticipated that the start of the school year was going to go. Right? And so let's talk through those. I've got 3 different things that I want to bring to your attention. And one of them, in a training that I did for Open Hearts not too long ago, I had mentioned then, but it's so good that I think we need to mention again. So let's start there. Skill set number 1, the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is planning the pause. Planning the pause. What in the world do you mean, Brooke? What do you mean by planning the pause? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. Yeah, here's the thing. We put in there our kids that get dismissed from school at 3 o'clock. We've got from like 3 to 3:20 to get them back home. We're going to have a snack. Then we're off to basketball practice. Or we're off to dance. Or we're doing chores and grinding at homework that is overwhelming for both the child and the parents. You've got schedules that are so full and so busy that everybody is just throwing darts at the wall and seeing what sticks. And here's the truth, guys. Your kids, as much as they want to be in basketball, they want to play the piano, they want to be in dance class, they also have a limit to what their capacity is. You know, I remember I wasn't even an adopted kid or a trauma-exposed kid, but I remember coming home in the 4th grade, and my mom, she said to me, you know, Brooke, you're going to have to choose. You can't do it all. You need to pick. What are you going to let go of? And I remember calling up my Brownie Troops leader and crying and saying, I can't do it anymore. Mom says I'm too busy. And I was sad, and my feelings were a little bit hurt, but at the end of the day, my mom had so much wisdom that I, as a 3rd grader, did not have. And when you've got kids that are adopted or that have been through a medical trauma, like the majority of our Open Hearts families, guys, your kids struggle with body regulation more than most kids. Your kids have a pendulum that swings a little bit wider, right? The emotional currency that is going on inside of them, it is largely based on something called cumulative harm effect. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today talking about cumulative harm effect, but trust me, there's a lot of science that tells me that I'm right, and 11 kids full of experience that also has been lived by me. Your kids have a different body chemistry, and therefore you probably do as well. Because kids that have a different body chemistry tend to bring their trauma in the form of behaviors into the household, and then us as parents, we've got to adapt accordingly. And sometimes that adaptation doesn't go so well, which is why I do what I do, speaking into the lives of adoptive families. But here's the thing. Your kids, they need the pause. And even if the pause is a 10-minute pause between activities, or if it's a, you know what, today's our pause day. We're going to take a pause and we're going to sit in that today. I want to encourage you, as important as the dance class is to your child, the pause is probably more important. And for us as parents, we've got to be able to say, hey, listen, let's take care of your body. And when you show me that you can handle all of the go, without explosions, without shutdowns, without tantrums, without sibling rivalry and fighting, then I know that the pause may not be as important, but the reality is right now your kids are sending you body signals that say, I need a break. I need a pause. And so what does that pause look like? It doesn't look like, hey kid, go sit on the wall, right, for 10 minutes, because your child's going to go out of their mind. A lot of the reasons our kids like to stay super busy is so that they're not having to sit in their body chemistry, right? I know me as a parent, I busied my head and I busied my hands so that I didn't have to sit in the hard feelings of the hurt that was going on inside our adoptive family. Can you guys relate to that? Where it's like, man, if I actually sat and thought about all the struggles and all the ways in which my child's trauma is impacting me, it might just be too big and too much. And so I got super busy with my hands and my head was always going 90 miles an hour. Think, 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 don't feel, think, think, think. And if we do that as parents, can you imagine that your children are doing the same? So if you take this away and you take this away, they sit in this and they don't believe that they're strong enough to sit in that, because all adoptions are born out of grief and loss. And most adoptions have a lot more than just grief and loss, right? They've got traumas that are also put into them. So the reality is your kid's pause needs to be a purposed pause. What do I mean by that? A purposed pause. We've got to actually do things in that pause that take up the space, but in a healthy way. In a way that slows them down and allows them to do exercises that are conscious. So what could that be? There are some fantastic videos where your kids can hop onto YouTube. I would suggest you do it with them in the first beginning parts, where they can do some breathing exercises, right? They could do some breath work. They could do some relaxation type things, right? So that's a really good space to do it. Kid yoga, that's another fantastic place where they can get their bodies moving and they're breathing, but they're not just stuck sitting in their emotion. Another great pause is anything like snuggling with stuffies and being snuggled. You guys can sing some of your favorite songs together, some of your silly songs together. Incorporating step 2 of our back to school survival is also a really good way of purposing your pause. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to that. And then you can see in the step 2 where you can fill that kind of in to purposing the pause. So let's take a look at that. What is number 2? Number 2 is going to be body and brain integration. Body and brain integration. Again, what are you talking about, lady? Body and brain integration, what happens as we're busied in life and as we are dealing with the traumas that adopted kids are dealing with, we tend to disconnect body sensation from our thinking brain. And what that does, it makes our children more volatile. It makes their pendulum swing wider. It makes them more reactive and less capable of choosing a response. And so what we want to do is get the body and the brain to where neurologically they're communicating more effectively together, and that allows your child to get back into responding rather than reacting. So, body and brain integration, what does that look like? It looks like things that cross the midline. I don't know if you've ever had your child assessed for any kind of special education services or checking for delays along the way, but one of the things kids do early on is the ability to hold their head this way but reach their hand across and pick something up, right? So sometimes what they'll do, the therapist that's evaluating, they'll hold down their right hand and put a block over to where the kid has to reach across their body in order to pick up the block. And what that tells us is that neurologically things are crossing. That's a really, really important function within the brain. Another thing that they do to check for body and brain integration and to see where all of that at is some of those like fine motor skill components, like the pincher grasp, right? Again, these are really young skill sets that they're tested for, but you're getting the idea, right? That like neurologically things have to be connected. So you as a parent with an 8-year-old child, what does that look like, right? You're not going to be doing those primary assessments that are being done for the littler kids, but the body and brain connection is still ultra important. I want to give you some ideas of things that you can do. You can take your hands and fold them like this, and then take turns, squeezing left and right, left and right, left and right. Now, in order to do that, the circuits of your brain have to crossfire. There's actually more to it than just that, which I do teach in Journey University, as far as like blood flow and body regulation skill sets. But I'm not going to educate you on the background for that right now. I just want you to know that there's a lot of power in squeezing left and squeezing right. Looks crazy, looks oversimplified, but trust me, if you can get your kids to slow down and focus on doing this, you've got some good body-brain integration that's starting to get into that pause space. Something else that's super powerful is breath work. And so as your child is doing this, long breaths out. You heard me. It's not the breath in that's magical. It's the breath out that is magical. So you can have your kids pretend that their finger is a candle, and then what I'm doing there is trying to blow hard enough that my flame wiggles, but not so hard that my candle would go out. Another thing you could have them do is pretend that they're blowing on a cup of hot cocoa. The long breath out, again, sounds oversimplified, but there is a lot to it. There's a lot more behind it than just breathing. It slows their heart rate down and helps to process out some of the metabolic shifts that need to take place for your child to lose their reactivity. Is it a cure-all? Absolutely not. But if you could get your kiddo to blow on the tips of their fingers while squeezing, I promise you it could make a significant impact. Another thing that I really like to talk about with body and brain integration, do you guys know what burrito rolls are? Or squishies? Have you heard of those exercises through either an occupational therapist or a physical therapist? No matter whether your child needs occupational or physical therapy, doing those exercises has profound significance. You can take your child, and usually adopted kids all the way up to the age of 11 enjoy this, because typically adopted kids are developmentally younger than they are biologically. And so you take that kid and you roll them really tight into a blanket, and then you can kind of wiggle them back and forth, and you can ask them, what kind of a burrito are they? And they can talk about what's in their burrito or what's in their crepe. And then you can tease them that you're going to eat them. They sound so delicious. And you can make some intimate eye contact if the child will allow you to. You can give them that positive feedback through your expressions and your smiles. You can allow it to be a silly moment of connection for them, but they're getting body and brain integration through the context of what you're giving them, and then the deep pressure from that blanket being wrapped around them. Again, you can purpose a pause. We're going to do burrito rolls. Everybody think about what kind of burrito you want to be today and bring me your best blanket, right? Sometimes the kids, if they've never done it before, allow them to hold their favorite squishy or stuffed animal and then wrap them up together. And one could be the hamburger meat and the other could be the eggs, and they're going to be a breakfast burrito. So make it fun, make it engaging. One of the things that kids like to do as well, if you've got carpet or if you're doing it on a bed, you can grab the end of the blanket and pull it up at the end, and they will unroll quite quickly. And so they think that that's a really fun sensation for them, and developmentally it's really great for them too. Body-brain integration. Wobble boards. Fantastic for body-brain integration. They look kind of like a little surfboard. Some of them are square. Some of them are curved. Some of them look like a skateboard but have like a triangle upside down on the inside, and they kind of have to balance in there. Again, super, super good for body and brain integration work, which is critical to your children's development neurologically. Overcoming trauma, recentering some of the neurological stuff that your kiddos are really missing out on. What else? Taco swings. Mom grabs one side, dad grabs the other side. Child is laying on the blanket, and mom and dad fold the blanket and lift child off the ground so that it's folded in like a taco shell. You can swing it side to side, again, singing songs together. That one requires less intimacy for a child, so if you're struggling with the intimacy in your relationship, taco swings may be better than burrito rolls. Give it a try. Let us know what you think. Does it work for you? How does your child respond? Okay, planning the pause, putting body and brain integration into the pause, or just in life. Joint compressions. If you don't know what joint compressions are, and you've got a kid that's a mover and a shaker, a kid that appears to be ADHD or perhaps is ADHD, a child that's constantly sensory seeking, putting their fingers in their mouth, stimulating with repetitive movement, I am telling you, joint compressions are a huge component to getting a hold of body regulation. Look it up. Joint compressions for children. Look that up on YouTube. Check it out. It's very simple. And my kids, when they were little, I taught them how to do it on their stuffed animals. So they would do it to their stuffed animals so that their stuffed animals felt awesome, and I would do it to them. And it took away any element of confusion or fear around it, but it's nothing scary. It literally is grabbing, stabilizing one side of the joint, then holding on to the other side of the joint and pushing up in a fast kind of jerky motion with the bottom component. And what that does is it puts that deep impact pressure into the joint and neurologically wakes it up. It wakes it up. And it's so important that body-brain connection is functioning as good as possible to keep our kids' brains moving in the right direction as they process through and stabilize their bodies. Just because you take a child out of a toxic environment and put it into a stabilized home doesn't mean the trauma is gone from your kid. It typically means the trauma has now been moved into your home, and your calm, peaceful, beautiful home is no longer that. Your calm, peaceful, healthy environment is now turning into a trauma cycle in your home. And so we've got to do a lot of components to help mom and dad not be triggered and to help your child put the trauma down and actually sit in trusting you as a parent and sitting in the peace of their environment and it not feeling like they need to re-trigger the environment, right? This is a big thing. It's nothing I can teach in one class right here, but hopefully over a course of time, we'll be able to get you guys some skill sets. And certainly if you want more information, you can certainly reach out to Journey University or look me up at thetraumamama.com. Are you ready for tool number 3 that I have for you today? Tool number 3. Let's check it out. What is it? It is leading with grace. Leading with grace. And here's what I probably could guess about you as a mom. Yeah, you have your weak moments, your moments where you would say that you had failed. Moments where you reacted instead of responding. We've all been there, especially when a home environment's a little bit out of balance, right? Our fuse can be too short. And the reality is, you've probably extended a ton of grace to your children. And so for me to remind you to extend grace to your kids is kind of a no-brainer, right? Your kids come home from school, that's a great point to plan the pause immediately when they get home from school. Doing some intimate connection along with the body-brain integration is going to really help them make the shift from school back into the expectations and the connections at home. Slowing things down for them when they get home and really being intentional about that connection has benefits that you just wouldn't believe until you do it, right? Slow down, sit on the couch, have your child sit with you, hold them in your lap while they're eating their apple and peanut butter, right? And just slow down the pace. Then let them go crazy and have fun and get back into sports, play with neighbor friends, whatever it may look like. But planning that pause, putting that in place, gonna be really important. And then when they come home and they just can't hang, understanding that the reality is they probably wish they could, right? That they had a hard day and that what they need is a mental health break, right? They need somebody to say, you know what, your bad day is okay. And I love you. Whatever happened with my eye there. I love you. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove it. I love you on good days and I love you on hard days. And I'm going to choose grace for you today as long as you don't, attack me. As long as you're able to sit in a safe space, right? And if you're not, your child's not able to sit in that safe space, you've got to create a place for them to be able to go that the rest of the house is not being impacted by their outrageous behaviors, right? I am sure that you're a mom that's got a ton of grace for your kids. But the part that is the greater struggle for most of my clients is grace for yourself. I'm sitting here talking about slowing down, about intimacy and connection with your children. And the truth is, sometimes it's hard. And the way I describe it is nobody wants to hug a porcupine. And if your child has been a chronic porcupine and you feel emotionally and physically unsafe with your kiddo, I get it. I've been there more than once. I've been there. And the majority of the families that I have worked with over time, there's a level of I don't feel safe around my kid. I don't feel like I can get emotionally and intimately connected with my child without being laid out to be just swallowed whole, right? To be stepped on and stomped on. I hear you. I get it. And yet, here's the truth, Mom. Your best is going to look different from day to day. And you may not have been perfect. Perfect is not in our vocabulary. We don't expect that from our children. We allow our children to have bad days. We have grace for the ways in which they do and do not show up, but then we so harshly look in the mirror and judge ourselves. And the truth is, if you can't extend the grace to you, how in the world is your child going to extend their grace to them? And so I want you to really consider, have you forgiven yourself for the ways that you feel like you haven't shown up as your best self? Have you really said, you know what? I had no idea what I was choosing when I chose this beautiful child. When God chose this child for me. Had I known, I may not have chosen it, but here I am. And I'm doing the best that I can. And some days my best looks awful. And some days my best looks pretty dang good. But every day it's my best. And on days when it's not your best, it's because there's nothing left to give. And that is because you are human, Mama. You're human. You've got to have grace for yourself and then model that grace. Like, hey, I really screwed up with you guys yesterday, and I'm sorry that I was short-fused. You guys didn't do anything that necessarily deserved that. I was reactive. And you know what? As a family, we need to be less reactive and more connected. Can you forgive me? Can I forgive me? And let's take that to each other as a community and say, hey, listen, let's drop the judgments that we tend to have towards other families and recognize, like, here's the thing, guys. We are all in the same battlefield, and whether your battle is going well or whether your battle is really a fight every single hour of every single day. I've been on both sides. I've talked to moms who are like, man, I thought I had this adoption stuff down, and then my third kid came. And then my seventh kid came. And those children changed the entire concept of adoption because their needs were so extreme compared, right? And that's the thing. We get in these comparison traps and then we decide what is and what isn't okay and what is worthy of grace and what is not. And the truth is, grace is sufficient for all. If you are abusive towards your child, we've got a problem. And it's not a problem that cannot be fixed. We can fix this problem. I hope and pray that it has not gone to that extent. But if you are just a mom who's lost her marbles and yelled and screamed, okay, I get it. It's got to change. It's not who you want to be, and you're not proud of it. And your children, no matter what they've done, they don't deserve that. So we've got to come together. We've got to give you space to what I call turtling up, right? Got to be able to pull within your shell, find the space to recover, right? To rescue and recover from what's going on in your world. And then you've got to be able to reintegrate. Rescue, recover, reintegrate. So that you can make that difference. I know as a mom, I've got so much going on. It is unbelievable. I've got my career here with families like you. I do children's director at my church. I've got all of these kids, and I've got grandkids, and I've got a ministry in Ethiopia that means the world to me. And I am multitasking at a level that sometimes my head is literally spinning, right? And so it's like, okay, yeah, I'll get to that. Okay, yeah, I'll get to that. But the truth is, you've got a lot going on, but you are everything to your child, right? Your child is one facet of what it is that you've been called to, but you are everything to that child. So the ways in which you do and do not engage, they make significant impact for those kids. So have grace for the ways in which you haven't shown up, and understand that tomorrow's a new day with a clean slate, and you can choose different tomorrow. I want to encourage you to do that. Extend the grace to your kids, extend the grace to yourself, and recognize that, you know what, we are at the start of a new school year. We've got a long way to go, that we can make changes in the way in which we're doing things, and it may mean that your kids have to do things in shifts. That's what we did. You're like, okay, look, you want to play soccer, that goes in this semester. You want to do cheer, that goes in this semester. You want to do dance, I could fit that into either. And we rotated instead of trying to have kids have activities every single night. I couldn't do it and do it well. And at the end of the day, if I can't do it well, all my kids pay the price, right? And so we work as a team and we sacrifice for each other. And at the end of the day, it teaches us families stick together, they do life together, and they make compromises and sacrifices for each other. Mom, I've got grace for you. Whatever you've got to tell me, I'm telling you, I've probably heard it before. I have. And the thing is that you're an incredible blessing. Your children, they've got a whole fresh start because of the choices that you parents have made for your kids. To bring them in and love on them, to provide for them, to meet their complex needs. And so you're a gift and a treasure. And I honor you. I honor you for all that you have chosen to take on and for the strength of character that you have to not quit, to just keep picking it up day after day, hour by hour, and know that there's a lot of mamas who get it. You're not alone. In a world that's so full of judgment, there is none from me. And my prayer and hope is that as a community, we come together, Open Hearts, Journey University, Trauma Mamas, we all come together and say, you know what? We're going to leave judgment at the door and be nothing but support and encouragement for one another as we move forward through this hard thing called life. I hope that these 3 pointers, somewhere along the way, you've got at least a couple notes that spoke to you. That was my goal, was to just give you, if one thing spoke to you today, I would be forever thankful. So reach back. Let us know what it is that you need. Let us know what it is that we shared that has impacted you today so that we can keep bringing relevant content to you and your family to help you through your journey. God bless you all. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'm honored to be invited into this space. We'll see you guys again very soon. Bye.